So let's just, for a second.
What?
The Anonymous Workshop
Okay.
has famously been part of Haiku Canada for a long, long time. And I can remember when I was a starting poet, and I went to my first Anonymous Workshop, and I came out of it thinking, I have learned so much from just listening to, and I forget who was George Sweet and, you know, the people who were doing the workshop. Just because, first of all, the poems that were coming in, I began to think about what was being written, and then constructive. It's all hopefully constructive. So the wonderful thing is that your name isn't on it. So when we're talking, don't stand up and go, yeah, but what I meant was.
Although you're free.
Unless you want to.
Yes, that's happened, you know, where someone will stand. Sometimes we get the words wrong because of the handwriting, and so they have to stand up and say, that's not the word.
That's not what I wrote.
Feel free to stand up, but it's better if you don't, because we're going to mess it.
Okay, so the first step is to read the poem. Let it, Bill Higginson always used to say, let it nest in your ear. The sound of the poem nest in your ear. So we'll start. Refreshing and cool, love is a sweet summer rain that washes the world. That was cool.
Okay.
All right, so I'm the good cop. I'm going to say that this is an experiential poem. This poet is experiencing a day in summer when there's rain. And that's the heart of really good haiku, is that there's something that a poet has seen or heard or tasted or felt or imagined. The senses are at play.
Right, yeah. And
that's all I'm going to say.
Yes. Well, I was going to say that one of the problems is that the definition of a haiku these days, when we started this in the 70s, the rules were clear. 17 syllables, about nature, concrete, blah, blah, blah. So we all agreed. And then over the last 40 years, it's become so, almost anything could be a haiku. So when you're discussing a haiku, it's like, whose rules are we following? You know, now I tend to be ultra conservative when it comes to haiku. I know what I believe a haiku is. Just not very few people, I'm sure, agree with me these days. But I'll give you my take on this, and then you'll listen to Terry Ann. If this is one of your haiku, you won't feel so bad when she's through with you, you know? But the one thing I think we have to agree on is a haiku for me, the one thing above everything else is there has to be what we used to call a haiku moment, or a moment of awareness, or an aha moment. They were different. There's got to be, you're walking along and you see a dandelion and you decide to write a haiku about it. Well, there must have been something that sparked that moment, and that's what you're trying to capture in your haiku, okay? So Terry Ann was describing the haiku moment. This poet went out and, you know, love is a sweet summer rain. So it was just after a rain maybe, and it's a beautiful sunny day and everything's still wet, and there's a nice moment here. I wouldn't call it myself a haiku moment. Yes, one of the things sorry, I know why you did that. One of the rules was, especially again, going back in the old days, when I was 12, you could not use poetic language, no metaphors, no similes. They did not belong in haiku, they belonged in lyric poetry, or today maybe tanka. I'm not a tanka poet, I don't know that much about it, but certainly in haiku, to me, metaphors and similes are anathema. You cannot, it just spoils the haiku for me. So, although this is a beautiful line, don't get me wrong, love is a sweet summer rain that washes the world. It's beautiful. And this would win a haiku contest. I guarantee you this would win a haiku contest. But I don't think it's a haiku because of this. It has the moment, but this poetic language bothers me in a haiku. Yes, but anything else you want to say?
The first line is your entry into a poem. it's what grabs you. Your middle line is what holds you, and your last line is the impression that you're left with. All three lines are important. Not one is more important than the other. But refreshing and cool feels redundant. It's the same thing. And as an opening to a poem.
Well, and you talked about redundancy. The reason why this is redundant and why this poet used two adjectives, or are they adverbs? I don't care. In this line, can you tell me why? Yes, this person, I'm not totally against 17 syllables. I'm not saying you can't write in 17 syllables. There have been some brilliant haiku written in some. But if you become preoccupied with 17 syllables, you'll end up putting in words that don't belong there, or taking out a really good word that should have been there, but, oh, it's, you know, refreshing and cool, 5 syllables. Love is a sweet song. So this poet was concerned with the 17 syllables. Even refreshing. Love is, you know, that would have made it better. I think it is redundant. And so I think you shouldn't be, I believe, but you shouldn't be concerned about counting syllables. But I'm not saying you never should do it. Yes?
One more thing about metaphor. Metaphor can be implied in a haiku.
Yes.
Basho's lone crow on that tree is a metaphor. And I think that is the difference between a blatant saying it right out there and implied. Because beautiful haiku often will have an implication of metaphor. Another thing is the abstraction here.
Love, yes, abstract
There's
words.
a tendency to stay away. It's not a de rigueur.
Yeah, for me, haiku has to have a moment, okay? It has to be concrete, not abstract. When I'm teaching little kids, I say to them, you've seen something that you want to write about, pretend you have a camera and you're taking a picture of it. You don't take a picture of love. There's no love in a love doesn't belong in a haiku. Tell me about the flower you saw, tell me about the rain, tell me about the beautiful moment. Haiku have to have a moment. They must be concrete for me, concrete and not abstract.
And what did you experience that made you feel this love? Here's another thing that you can't really see. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Washes the world. I don't see it. I don't hear it. I can't taste it. I can't smell it. It's language, and it's flowery, and yeah.
And another part of the anonymous workshop is feedback from you guys. It doesn't, you know, I mean, I'm probably one of the most brilliant haiku poets you're ever going to meet, but don't let that intimidate you. If you have an opinion, you know, you could be as good as Terry Ann someday if you were. Yeah. Seriously though, feedback from you might see something in this that we totally miss, and you know, just put up your hand if you, or just shout out if. Because this, I guarantee you, this would win a haiku contest, and you'll see this in many magazines.
Well, it would win a haiku contest in a journal where the editor knew nothing about haiku. And that's what happens.
Yes.
When you read literary magazines, particularly in Canada, it happens in the US as well, you have these editors who are looking for still the 17.
Oh yeah.
And you know, it's got a ring to it. It's kind of, you know,
it is nice.
Hip and happening and wash it. Oh yeah.
This would make a beautiful lyric poem. You know, we're knocking this a lot, but it, you know. Yeah.
But
Leroy, sorry.
Basic writing, be specific, show, don't tell.
That's it.
This one does tell.
It tells
It's
too much.
telling. It's telling.
I can't believe that it's in a contest. Because it does all the things that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very sweet.
We picked this one to go first. Yes.
It's missing. Yeah. It's missing the mark on about 7 fronts.
Yeah.
But this is it. This is it. There is an experience. And all haiku poetry starts with the experience. And it's a beginning.
Okay, take this. We're going to go from one extreme to the other here.
All right, here we go. You want to read it to me? Oh, thanks. Why don't you, do you want to talk while I'm
When I was a kid, you know, my mother was pretty rough on me, which is probably why I became a poet, you know. I was kind of hoping to be a football player, a hockey player. What else do you want me to talk about? My first car was a Volkswagen Beetle. It was yellow. It was practically new. I didn't know how to drive standard, so it was very hairy when I... Okay, sorry.
All right. Old piano. Ivory fingernails ripped off.
Oh, see, now you laughed. I read this and I went, oh my God, if I'm reading this right, this is a, not a horrible poem, but a gut-wrenching poem.
It comes in.
It's-
What do I want to say about this? In haiku-ese, the language of haiku, we talk about the phrase and the fragment. Fragment, old piano, the phrase, ivory fingernails ripped off. In other words, a haiku is kind of written 1 and 2, or 2 and 1, traditionally. We're writing a 3-line haiku. So this poem has that phrase, the phrase and the fragment, the 1 and the 2. Old piano, that feeling of the patina of something old,
Right.
antique. Ivory fingernails. Now, a piano has ivory keys.
Yes.
So the poet is playing with language here, which I always love. And Basho always used to talk about, you know, the humor in haiku. And the humor that sometimes you have to swim around to find. So there's something interesting going on here. I'm going to let you talk.
Why this one struck me, okay, is I used to own these old upright pianos, and they had real ivory keys, which are now illegal because of ivory, you know, so I went, oh, piano, I love pianos, I'm into this one. Ivory fingernails, so I thought of somebody playing the piano, and they're describing their fingernails as ivory colored, and then you get to that last line, it ripped off, and I'm going, oh my God, what did they rip the ivory from some poor animal? They shot this animal just to get this one piece of ivory so rich people like me could afford a piano. This is how this struck me, you know, it's like, that bam, you know? It's got that punch that you know, haiku should affect you. If it doesn't affect you, then it, you know, it's not successful, I think. Sorry, I can't.
It speaks of the terror also, taking fingernails.
Well, that's right. Yeah. I got terror when I read this. I mean, that's why I just picked it up. I don't know, like technically how good or bad we can find things to improve it, but terror is what I felt when you're ripping off the fingernails off an animal. Well, you don't literally rip off the fingernails, but killing an animal just so you can have ivory keys on your piano.
I saw it as the fingernails being the keys,
Okay,
and they were ripped off the piano. I didn't see the other one.
Well, okay, that too, yeah, it could be. I know people are now harvesting old piano keys. They'll scrap the piano, but they'll take the keys because they're made of ivory and they can sell them. So you're right, it could have been that as well.
But what Bernice has said is very interesting, that there are different interpretations from a poem. And, you know, haiku really is a gift that you give, and you don't really know how someone is going to take it in. The reader brings their own experience.
Yes.
If they're pianists, then they even see it differently. I play the piano, so when I get this thing, and as Marco said, it's a line that punches. To me, it's punching. I feel
Good or bad?
sort of uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, yeah.
But if a poem can do that, that's powerful. I'm not so sure that getting out of your comfort zone isn't an okay thing in a poem. It's probably nothing that I would write, but there's something in it that just grabs you.
Yes, Vicky.
Well, I never went there because of the word fingernails.
Right.
And I thought, because that actually took me to somebody who was a human.
Right.
In fact, painted nails, and I have an unfortunate relationship with, somebody who or just, who knows what, but many dramatic stories possible there.
Right.
Because I'm not aware that ivory
Oh,
is
yeah.
accessible from is it from
No, most of the horns.
You really wanted that to be,
Yeah, the image falls apart there, that's true.
Probably
Yeah.
obvious.
Yeah.
But I would have definitely bought it then, but this put me off that scent.
Leroy, first.
I think in this sense of context, I think this was the punch of the show I want.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very on.
I think that's a very
What's
interesting
that?
comment, and a
Would you
lot of
put?
times, haiku that you read
You would
need
put-
a backstory. I mean, they're okay,
Whoa, that's even worse.
there's something in there, not to take away from the haiku, but it would be an even richer experience for it to follow a haiku. Absolutely.
Mike Montour just went by and said, I would put my fingernails ripped off. And it's like, but that's what I got there, even though it doesn't say my, it was like, but an interesting point's just come up. We, again, I'm going back to the old days, we used to feel that a lyric poem, the lyric poet gives you an experience and you go, oh wow, isn't that, he was so sad, he was so happy, he was so in love. Whereas a haiku we used to see as an hourglass, where the haiku poet gives you an image and then you, as it's coming down, you interpret it. So the more reactions that we're having, different visions of how you read this, makes this more successful to me
Yes.
as a haiku poem,
Yes.
as opposed to a lyric poem, you know?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Interpretation, I think, that falls on a reader's own experience, what they bring to the poem, can be as varied as the number of people in this room. And that's what makes haiku, I think, very
Yeah, a lyric poem, they're great as well. I'm not knocking them, but the poet does all the work for you. And you just have to read it and go,
Is this Downtown Fall?
downtown fall, I would say, a twist. And on the what floor?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, that's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, there's more work for the reader in haiku, I feel, which, you know, it's you know, every meeting we have, we bemoan the fact that the outside world doesn't get us, you know? We're these geniuses that get haiku, and those idiots don't understand us, you know? And as part of the reason for that is our fault, but it's also because a haiku makes you work in a way that I don't think a lyric poem does as much. A lyric poet gives you more. Okay, what's this?
Okay, just one note to
Sure.
that, because I am a lyric.
Sorry.
One of the things that happens in lyric poetry is that there's fireworks with language. You start with a metaphor, you extend the metaphor down the page. The exciting thing about writing a lyric poem is you're doing this. And it was very hard for me to cross over and do this. To be simple, to take all that fireworks, to take all that stuff that you love playing with in lyric poetry and not have it anymore. And just do this. It took a long time. So they're two different
Yeah.
apples and oranges.
When I started writing, of course I started writing as high school lyric poems, you know, or reading lyric poems, and I have a short attention span, and I'd read some brilliant, supposedly brilliant poem, blah, 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 to see eternity in a grain of sand, and I'd go, wow, this is what the guy's trying to say. Don't give me all this stuff. I want to hear to see eternity in a grain, and that's, so I kept cutting my lyric poems to like one line or two lines, you know, and that's the difference. And I don't mean to disparage lyric poetry, and I'll probably say some terrible things about tanka because I'm not a tanka poet. No, I hate tanka only because I feel it's messing up haiku. People are confusing, and I hope whoever's giving a workshop afterwards. Yes. Yeah, I have nothing against tanka as a form, but people are confused. They're not the same, you know, so.
Fraticelli, you know,
Can't tank.
people either get him or they go like this.
Yeah, my wife,
We all-
my mother, and two
we
other
all get
people
it.
get me, yeah.
And we love him. Okay. So, downtown fall, a twisted sparrow on the canyon floor. Maybe a
Anybody?
second time. A downtown fall, a twisted sparrow on the canyon floor. Again, I can see the fragment and the phrase, the one and the two. We talk about the leap. We talk about the gap between these two parts, either the two and the one, or the one and the two. And some people will even go so far as to say that the gap, the leap, is where the poetry is. You have to think about that a little bit. There's an organic flow, or there should be, between the phrase and the fragment.
Can I interrupt just one?
I'm not sure about, oh, I'm taking your,
No. I was just going to say there's the one and the two lines and one line, or one line and two lines. But my favorite haiku is where there's one line, the second line is a link or a hinge
A pivot.
that could a pivot, which could be read with the first or with the second. And you're going down this way, and you're going, oh, I see. And then no, that's not what I was saying. I was saying this.
Yeah.
You know, that's a kind of another option. So
and those poems that have that pivotal middle line are really hard to write. And those are the poems I find that a lot of them win prizes because
Yeah.
they're stellar. They're really exciting poems because it's this revelation. You go, oh, look at that. Oh, that middle line goes, here. No, it goes
here, yeah.
Yeah. So getting back here,
Yes.
the leap from downtown, which is urban. I'm picturing urban skyscrapers, coffee shops, and I'm not sure about here. The
Weiss Fall, yeah.
the combination of these two words is just throwing me a tiny bit. But the bigger thing is from here to here, because the canyon floor, I mean, I'm out of, now, not that there can't be a contrast between an urban setting and a completely natural setting. There's that possibility, but I'm not feeling it. It doesn't seem to.
Okay, so I'll defend this as a. You're supposed to be the good cop.
I know.
Well, first of all, I see a pun here. It's a fall autumn, and it also could be the falling of the bird. And the canyon is, Joni Mitchell, the canyon in the city. It's like this could also be a pun,
Yeah.
So the bird, the poor sparrow who finds itself not in nature but in the city, maybe hits a window, falls, and it dies in a canyon floor, but not the floor of a canyon out there, but of a city skyscraper. Yeah, so
it needs to be in there.
It's pretty interesting, this one. Yeah.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
I think when you don't get, or when it doesn't sort of hit you at first, you have to read it a second time. But for me, even on a second reading, and I've read it 3 times now, I'm just not. I'm not. I can see the twisted. I can see the sparrow with.
Yeah.
Like that. But that's.
That was very good. You should take up acting. No, but I agree. I have mixed feelings about twisted. I'm not sure it's the right word, but definitely you see this poor. We have a big window that birds hit all the time, and it's terrible. No matter, and there's nothing worse than seeing a poor. Yeah. Yes.
Do you need the word fall?
Well, no, probably not. But except for as a pun, the fall of the bird and autumn. No, you're right.
Weird.
Yeah. You might take out fall.
Downtown, a twisted sparrow.
Yeah. I mean, I think the point of this haiku for me is that the sparrow is not in a canyon in the country, but in a canyon in the city. So you need downtown. I guess you don't need fall unless you were trying to get a pun in there about and they didn't really fall. It dropped like a rock. Yeah, maybe taking fall. I'm all in favor of the more words you can take out of a haiku, the better. Start with a haiku that's got 12 words, and if you can get it to 6 without it being what they used to call pidgin English, someone new to a language, just
telegraphic.
Telegraphic, yes. Choppy. You don't want to be too choppy. Yes.
Some haiku groups, that a lot of people work with other haikuists.
Yes.
Each one has its
one of them is that haiku must include a kiko, a season word.
Yes.
So maybe that's this person.
Yes, it could be.
And has worked that rule into something to launch from.
Yes, yeah, that used to be one of the rules as well. In the original days of defining a haiku, you had to have a season word in there. One of the seasons had to be, not necessarily by calling it fall, but something whether it's tulips, which are spring, or snow, which is winter. Yeah.
Fall is migration time and a lot of that.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, this could have been a migrating bird that happened to cut through the city, and yeah.
I wonder if it would hold more if it began with fall without the downtown.
Yeah, but then you don't have the fact that it's downtown. See, fall, a twisted sparrow on the canyon floor, then it's just some bird on the floor, and where's the moment, you know?
But
Oh, I guess so. Yeah.
and is it fall this or is it autumn?
Yes, yeah.
So it
Yeah, pretty good haiku, but
fall downtown. It's an interesting. I think there's an image. Haiku has to. Okay, I'm going to end on a bright note. There is a very interesting image.
right in. Yeah, you can see this.
Yeah, you can
It's this poor bird at the end, at the bottom of a skyscraper. That yellow one looks interesting.
All right, here we go. Spring cleaning. All the new growth in the stone garden. All right, phrase, fragment, phrase.
Yeah, 1 and 2. Any thoughts on this one?
I'm going to start with the poet capturing new growth, something that's living and it's growing, and this is making me feel that it's overgrown. Because if you're spring cleaning and you're cleaning it out, then there's a lot of it. And it's green, and whether it's weedy and I like the new growth against that. Whenever you have something alive and living juxtaposed against that rock stone, although in Japan there is and this is the organicness of this piece, is that the belief that there's the anime in the stone, that the stone is actually alive. And I think in the stone garden, this gardener
there's a certain
feels that aliveness in the stone. This is
disagree with
capturing something quite. I don't have.
See, I disagree. This is what's that Chioni poem about? Everything I gather
is alive.
Is alive.
Time.
Everything I gather is alive. Now this person's having a different. To me, as a gardener, and I don't have a totally stone garden, but I have places where I want stones. It's spring. You're looking forward to growth. I love even dandelions. There's some yellow in my garden before the other flowers come in.
But you're a nutcase.
No, yellow. Come on, dandelions are nice unless you have a pristine lawn. But this person has their stone garden, and the irony is they're pulling flowers out of the stone garden because they don't belong in a stone garden because stones are already organic. Talk about Eastern baloney. But never mind. You don't want, I don't think you want flowers, unless they're planted flowers within, but a real stone garden has no growth in it. It's all stones. So as a gardener, you're actually pulling not weeds, but flowers out of a garden in the spring. it's totally a disconnect, you know what I mean? That's how I see it. And spring cleaning. I'm not sure to even use this line, but the fact that he's spring cleaning, he's cleaning the flowers out of his garden, and so that's certainly ironic. Don't you see that? As opposed to new growth? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's just so interesting because new growth, somehow I didn't see, I just saw weedy things that.
Yeah, even grasses.
That sort of grow up in between the stones.
But you don't want them there.
No, not in a stone garden.
Not in a stone garden, but yes. Leroy?
I'm looking at the way it's formatted. I think it's a good opportunity here to do something visual and make a bit of history, change it a little bit, and let the reader go in different ways. So you can drop the words down the page, not as small, but spring cleaning, the stone garden, and growth. And you can work it down if you want to put one word, a line, or part word, and break the words up so that
This way.
it's patchy as you go down the letters.
Vertical.
Just to go take it down vertically.
So
really
spring-
what you have, the words that would basically would be spring cleaning, the stone garden, new growth,
Yeah.
okay? And then bring it down the page and you put it almost like, I know I played like a waterfall where I dropped it.
Right.
So Leroy, something like, am I writing one letter underneath the next one like this, spring?
No.
No.
Go across,
The
here
ring?
you go, SP, drop an I down if you want.
Oh, I see.
You can do it that way, but you don't have to. You can simply go spring, garden, one word each.
Yes.
Or part words. It's something that you can play with. I think there's an opportunity here that you can play with, like, you can come
Yes.
up with a half a dozen different ways.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know Leroy's work, but oftentimes his haiku,
It's
you know,
visual.
are visual and
Yeah.
letters are all over the place, and you have to work to get that. Yeah, I think that's a word.
I just love the play.
No, I agree. I'd have stone garden at the bottom, like you say, and maybe the
Yeah.
other part growing up out of the
And
stone.
the thing is, it's open. Are you cleaning it? Is the rain cleaning it?
Yes.
Ah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Is it just patching from where? Are these actually the stones?
Yes.
You know, don't cut
Yes.
The letters could
There's so
represent
many
stones.
opportunities here. I think.
There, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Leroy.
Yes,
I
Brendan.
think you have to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, otherwise, I think that's the best way to go about living in general. If they know what they're doing in their rock garden, they might not mean a stone garden, they might mean a rock
Yeah.
garden. You're taking off dead stems,
Yep.
leaf, bundles.
I
And
agree.
they're happy about the new growth.
Yeah, I agree. What was somebody saying yesterday about? Oh, geez, I can't remember. It'll come back to me later. But you have to give the person the right to interpret it their own way. Yeah, but see, rock garden and stone garden are not the same thing to me. If you say a rock garden, you want growth in your rock garden. The rock gardens with flowers. A stone garden is a Japanese stone garden, you know? But that was, I really liked that last one. But
Yeah.
see, Leroy, even the way sorry, Claudia, he reduced it to 6 words. I don't know, I can't remember how many words were there, but spring growth, spring garden, new growth.
Spring cleaning.
Yeah, whatever.
I think the spring cleaning, I can't figure out what's cleaning. Spring cleaning, the stone garden, new growth. But yeah, why not you still play around with it? Play
Yeah.
lines around, but I think it lends itself. to it.
No, but I'm adding the fact that you reduced it to 6 words from the 8 or 9 that were there before, which to me is almost always, not always, but almost always better.
I was interested in something you slipped in there.
Oh, sorry, Claire,
You
forgot.
said, about dropping the first line. See, that first line threw me right away. Spring cleaning to me, nothing to do with cleaning the garden.
Right.
And I know I've got to make that leap. But then you send just those last 2 lines together. Just the last 2 lines together were quite interesting. They could make a haiku on their own.
You know, people think haiku, you write them in 5 minutes. There are haiku I've been writing for 15 years, and every year I take out a new word. It's never quite finished, you know. They just think, oh, they whip those off, you know.
Yeah. I finally figured out something while we're finishing up. Then I write, then we, takes a while. Okay. Hometown. The people I knew have moved to the graveyard. hometown, the people I knew have moved to the graveyard.
Any thoughts before I attack it? No. No, this is like, I kind of like this one.
Dead people moved to the graveyard.
Yes. Yeah, well, this is one of those pivot lines. Hometown. The people I knew have moved, and you're going that way, but the people I knew have moved to the graveyard, you know? So there is that element of
Yes.
the pivot line.
This is a pivot, for sure. And it's the fragment and the phrase, so we've got the essence going on here. The people I knew have moved. It is a pivotal line, but let's look at the language in the line.
Well, let me say something here while you're thinking.
You do.
Yeah, I like the image a lot. I like the moment a lot.
Yeah.
For me, this poet is telling me a little bit too much. Yes, I get the fact you're going back to your hometown and everybody is now, I might have just said hometown, visiting the graveyard, you know, and then you've put in the fact that this person's family and friends are now, he's not visiting the town, he's visiting the graveyard. This tells me, this again would make a longer, nicer lyric, or a tanka for you tanka lovers. This would make a very nice tanka if you got a couple of lines up there. Because tanka allows, I don't know a lot about tanka, but it allows for this kind of emotion and but as a haiku, it tells me a bit too much. There's nothing for me to put into this. The poet has told me everything. He's gone to his hometown. Geez, everybody's dead. I guess I'll go to the graveyard. So there's nothing for me to do but admire that. Say, oh, that's a very nice, and I'm being facetious, you know, whoever wrote this. I like this one.
Just a tad.
Yeah, I like this one. No, I like this one. But what I'm saying is it tells me as a reader too much. There's no space for me to interpret, as opposed to visiting my hometown, visiting the graveyard, or something like, I don't know, maybe a nice two-liner. You know what I mean? The fact that you're going to your hometown and most of the people have now passed away, you know?
Yes. And I think here's a challenge in haiku, bringing in the past tense, because haiku is in the moment now. It's immediate. So most of the poetry that we write is in present tense. It's happening now. This, as well as telling, has a double, for me, problem. Because it is too telling, and it's people I knew back then. I mean, perhaps the poet is thinking this all in the moment, which is a possibility.
Yes.
But I think there's another way to get at that, rather than to bring the past tense into the actual writing of the poem.
See, when I'm teaching kids, again, I normally teach, or used to teach, grade 5. So I would say to them, okay, think in photographs. Okay, that's the first thing. It's got to be concrete and visual. How would you take a picture of this? Well, if you were going to take a picture of this, you would have someone standing in a graveyard with the gravestone. You don't have to tell me the people I knew and it's my hometown. So that's the essence, that's the image for me, where this person maybe told me just a little bit too much. Show me the picture of you standing by a in a graveyard looking at a bunch of, you know, gravestones. That would focus it more in the moment.
And is there something that you can use, some image that you can use that would evoke the feeling of loss? I keep going back to Basho. I mean, for me, it was a instructional, you know, when you're in a session and somebody says something and it clicks. It was the lone crow in the bare tree. And even now, if I see a crow by itself in a tree without any leaves, it just comes in, you know? So I think what we're always trying to do is find the image that gives the emotion, that allows us to enter in. to what that poet was feeling.
Yeah.
And sometimes as a reader, you may never get to actually what the author or the poet was actually thinking themselves because of life experience. You come to words differently. It's one of those paths that, you know, you're on this path and I'm on this path. But we can meet
Ellen, right?
in a haiku.
I've known these two for like 40 years. They're twins. And I said for the first time, I see the difference. And I got you, look at this, at 50 feet, I picked you out from your... Oh, you would have killed me.
Oh, no.
You would have broken my heart. What were you going to say? Sorry.
I love the emotion and the story that I create. And I think that maybe would make a good somewhere around in the corner of Haiku.
Yes, you could easily make a good haiku, which we're not going to talk about today, but yeah, exactly. It would work really well. The prose somehow suggesting that you're going back to your hometown. Then you could just say, standing alone, admiring the gravestones or something like that, and the fact that it's your hometown and would come out in the prose of the haiku. Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, haiku is great. I read only haiku these days. I'm really enjoying haiku. Labyrinth walk, a bend in the path, overthinking. Ah, interesting. Okay.
There's a fan over here, or something's blowing haiku around,
Yeah, so you picked the one.
which is interesting.
Yes.
Okay, so we're switching it up. You're reading now.
I just read it.
Yeah.
Labyrinth walk, a bend in the path, overthinking. Okay. What did you say? Can you
A list.
A list? Oh, I see, a list.
Bernice said a list. And this is a poem that has 3 distinct lines. Labyrinth walk, a bend in the path, overthinking. Now, I like the bend in the path with the labyrinth because there's, you know, I could really, although
Maybe a fork in the path.
I've just said that, and I'm thinking, is that redundant to say a labyrinth is a bend? So, you know, sometimes you say something and then you check and then you go, I'm going to reverse that. I'm going to say, I think this is...
That's why I think it should be fork. You know, where the person has to make a decision and
Yes.
they're overthinking, do I go left or...
Yes. Yes, do I go right? Do I go left?
Yeah.
Any poem that's set in a labyrinth is special, and a labyrinth is absolutely, Lynn, is a circle. I'm wondering, overthinking the circular.
Well, for me,
There's a germ. There's something here that's really interesting. I think a labyrinth often I walk them to release, so I'm not thinking. I love to go out and just follow and breathe. You know, it's almost a meditation. It's a walking meditation. So.
Yeah, and I think that's what the poet's trying to get at here. Stop thinking and just walk along the labyrinth. You'll get out at some point. You know, just keep going left if you like, or just enjoy the labyrinth instead of, okay, I've gone left 3 times. This must be a right turn. You know, it's like you're blowing the whole experience by overthinking it. You know.
Yeah.
You can do that visually.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm actually.
Yes. The circle. Yeah.
Thinking that just take those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Take this right out. Yeah. Yeah. You don't need a bend in the.
You might choose to, you might leave part of the word out.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's excellent. Yeah, as a visual, this would be really striking.
Really stunning.
Maybe it's going to take a while to get out here. Okay, I'm going to get it wrong. What am I going to do?
Yes.
So then we're going to think with, why try to be overthinking issues there?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you could do. You know, you're right.
The challenge, Leroy, is most of us do not have the typography to set up a page the way you do. I mean, I wouldn't know how to take language and put it into a.
I could do it on a little calendar, I don't have to time out, so it would be very basically like, somebody like Will Packer, he would.
Yeah, oh yeah. But I mean, some of your work is so exciting because of the sheer typography that encloses it. Like, if you look at it, you go, it's stellar, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I wouldn't go there.
yeah.
No, but I like style, it's out in space.
Yes.
Those three words, just
Yeah.
something to do
Yeah.
individual.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Labyrinth walk,
And there's no need to say that you have typography. You're putting it in.
Yeah.
yes.
There's a poet, I think his name was Brown, and this was back, I think.
With handwriting, calligraph, but very
And he was,
calligraphic.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't very nice to look at, but it was poetry.
Yes,
Brown, I think was his last name.
Yeah.
But anyway.
yeah.
So I think there are two important lessons here. Well, first of all, the moment, what I like about this is there's definitely a moment here. There's definitely a moment. It needs editing. But as Leroy said, you don't even need this whole line. Even if, forget about the visual aspect. Labyrinth walk, overthinking. That's what the poet's trying to get you. The fact that stop thinking, enjoy the labyrinth walk, you know, or you know. So this would be a wonderful three-word, I love three-word haiku, if you can ever get them. Labyrinth, walk, overthinking, you know? But then, sorry.
You're going over time.
Yeah, but I'm so interested, come on. But I agree, just to end then with Leroy, you know, the dilemma is, we have all these rules, which I swear by because I'm an extreme conservative. But we're poets, we have to push the boundaries. So if you can do it as a visual, as Leroy is suggesting, you're taking it to a whole other dimension, which I think is excellent, you know, even though they wouldn't have done it in Japan.
I think we have possibilities.
Yes, like possibilities.
Herbie Hancock, I think the project he did was different musicians and were jazz musicians. And they put it together, it was country music, I can't think of who the people were. But there's a video also, there's an album. I think it's called, I'm not sure, but anyway, possibilities was the idea. And he does it in the one where he talks about Miles Davis, where he came off that, well, there's possibilities, you have to go out all the time. You know,
Yes,
just keep
yes.
pushing it.
Right.
And of course, in their improv, they would just.
Angela's reminding us that we have, and I'm so
Yeah, we have
sorry.
so much more
I'm
material.
so- there are a number of more poems.
Yeah.
Maybe
What?
next conference, how about we put them in a bag?
Next
We'll
conference.
hold on to them.
Or talk to us outside, you know?
Yeah, we could, I could do for lunch, or we'll, anyway, thanks.
Thank you so much, yeah. Yeah, I'm not smart.